Hi, everyone. My name is Kim, and I'm the founder and creator of Expat Mama. Through these interviews that are both in the audio podcast and the new YouTube channel, we educate people about what it's like to be an expat, who is someone who's left their native country to live in another country, and we tell their stories. Today, my guest is Susan Naja, who's a beautiful ethnic mix, as she's from both Trinidad and Tobago and Canada. So there's a lot of the map that's being covered here. She's currently located in Merida, Mexico, and I'm so excited to interview her. Welcome, Susan. How are you doing today?
I'm just great, Kimberly. Thanks for having me on your show, Expat Mama. Woohoo!
Oh, I'm so excited to have you. So let's talk about your roots. Let's talk about where you're from originally, or shall we say, / how you grew up.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love talking about where I'm from because I had a beautiful, incredibly poetic childhood in Trinidad. I was born in a little pink house in the capital, which is Port of Spain. And from our home, which was a concrete home, but up on stilts, I had a view of the sea. Dad's the Trini from ancestry back to India. I think I'm 4th generation Trinidadian, and mom is the Canadian. They fell in love in Canada, moved to Trinidad for a honeymoon. It ended up being 13 years and 5 kids later and a whole bunch of animals, but just gorgeous. Yeah, Trinidad. The Poetry of Trinidad. So if I give you a little bit about the background of Trinidad, it had 2 tribes, the Carib and the Arawak, and during that era of colonialization, European colonialization, the Spanish came first and couldn't make a turn of it there, so they sold the island to the Brits, but that's after they wiped out the Arawaks altogether. There are still some Carib Indians on the island. So the British, as they were doing in many places in the world, similar to right here in Mexico, in creating the fincas or the haciendas and cultivating what they could to turn a profit. So in Trinidad and in most of the tropical world, it was sugarcane, coffee, chocolate. So yeah, who are they going to get to work these plantations? Well, the Africans, right? So African slavery. So today in Trinidad, still the largest population is African. But after slavery was abolished, they looked around the world at where they could get cheap labor, much like the trans-corporate nationals do today. And at that time, China was in drought and turmoil, war. And of course, India was struggling with being colonized by the Brits. Actually, it's fascinating. I look into history quite a bit and my ancestry. And at the same time that my mom's grandparents were in India, right? My grandmother on my mom's side was actually born in India. My father's family was on the other side of India, and they were, losing their land and going hungry and being absolutely, desperate. Mm-hmm. So I've got the colonizers and the colonized all mixed in together, both sides of the coin, yeah. So that's how the Indians ended up in Trinidad. And also the Chinese. And so you have a mix of all of the European cultures, because even in one year, like the country, the island was owned by, you could say, all of the different colonizers. They were all battling and the pirates were there. No, a real Caribbean, Pirates of the Caribbean sort of scenario. And so now today, actually starting, 200 years ago, all of these wonderful ethnicities, they were intermarrying, when my mom, my father in Canada in the 60s in Toronto, my dad was a university student there. And there were like 2 dark guys, at Ryerson in the 60s. Toronto's a different place today. But in Trinidad, people have been intermarrying racially for hundreds of years. So, and the cultures are all together. And of course, everyone brought their cultures too. So it was such an incredibly poetic place in the sense of my parents, they were mixed. My father left behind his religion, which he was raised with, which was Islam. Mom, white Canadian, mostly Northern European, a bit of Italian, raised with, Anglican Christianity, but it was the 60s and they were secular, young people. So I wasn't raised with any religion, which for me was very cool because my perceptions were just left to be wide open, right?
Love
And
it.
I did have this inner sensitivity, and my spirituality was always very much very alive for me. And then it was coming to me through the imam song in the evening wind on my porch while I would be watching the sunset over the sea. And of course, Hindu Holi, which is a celebration of life in spring. And in the 70s, it was no hold bars. You're out in public and colored powder is being thrown all over you, no matter who you are, all over your car, all over everything. So incredibly colorful and playful. And then, of course, Diwali, the lighting of, they call them diyas, little clay pots with ghee and other sacred oils, neem. And they light them in patterns. I don't know if you've seen images of this or attended Diwali. It's beautiful. It's the most sacred, serene thing. And as children, Dad would load the family into the little car and we'd just drive around looking at, it would be like looking at Christmas lights, yeah? Except
Nice.
it's natural candlelight and people place them throughout their gardens and the laneways, just magic, yeah? Just beautiful patterns of candlelight and the quiet serenity that comes with that. So all of these magical things. And then of course it's Trinidad and there's carnival, which the Africans, you can't stop the artist and the musician and Africans, no matter how tough life is, they're creating art and music amazing. So Trinidadian carnival is world famous. And of course the music styles, calypso and soca. So yeah, all these incredibly creative things. And then the island itself, wherever you go on that island, you see the green mountains. They're like arms just embracing you. And yeah, it's a beautiful, beautiful place to grow up. And the children,
completely magical to me. Idyllic.
It really was. And the children, so I attended a school. It wasn't a government school. It was a private school. And the children were every color that was mixed. And in the 70s at our school, like bullying didn't exist. Bullying is such a huge issue in North America. In North America in particular, not really in the rest of the world. I've been a teacher in Indonesia and working with teachers, and the concept of bullying, they weren't even aware of the issues in North America, where children are committing suicide at the ages of 12 and 13 due to bullying. It doesn't exist in Indonesia. It didn't exist for me in my childhood elementary school in Trinidad either. The children were just the most lovely children ever. So very beautiful. So yeah, that was my life until I was 10. Of course, it wasn't all idyllic. There are human dynamics as well and stuff to get through, but these are the strongest, most beautiful impressions that I'm sharing with you for sure. Yeah, that's where I came from as a kid.
Hearing your questionnaire, you say it's a great joy to retell, and you just retold it in such beautiful visualization that you've given us. It's a gift. It's really, because a lot of people don't really know, and that sounds like a very different history than a lot of the rest of the Caribbean, right? In that particular country.
The history, let's see. Well, wherever the Brits were in the Caribbean, I imagine they would have been doing the same thing,
right?
We know Haiti, for example. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what happened with Haiti, why Haiti can never have any sort of peace and get through their ongoing social and environmental crises. Yeah, God has blessed Haiti. What's happening there? But the French, there are French islands, there are Dutch islands, there are Spanish islands, Cuba. Of course, most of Latin America, the western half of all of Latin America, it's all Spanish, and then Portuguese on the west.
Yeah.
So yeah, they were all doing the same thing, bringing in indentured laborers from India, first from Africa, then from India. I don't know about China. I don't know how many. I don't know about China and Latin America or the rest of the Caribbean, but yeah, everyone would have been intermarrying throughout the Caribbean, you bet, for sure. There would be some commonalities, no doubt.
So interesting.
Mm.
Okay, so let's go on and talk a little bit more about how you came to, well, okay, so we're missing some years here.
Right, yes.
You took us up to 10 years old.
That's
and what
right.
happens? What happens after 10 years old?
Mom was just fed up with being so far away from her Canadian family, and she actually never liked Trinidad to begin with.
Oh.
I'm so grateful I got to spend 10 years there. But Mom, you know, it was different. She's more like you in her ethnicity. She couldn't stand the heat. She fell asleep every afternoon. She had 5 kids in, 6 years. And she was a very soft-hearted, beautiful, beautiful woman. So third world countries, the animals. Yeah, the animals. So, and they would just read her. Animals, pregnant doggies would show up asking her for help. And we had so many animals. We had a big yard, and we were so fortunate. And then the animals had babes. So we were blessed with lots of puppies and lots of, pet love. So yeah, so when we were on holidays in Canada, mom made the call to say, that's it, She told my dad that we were staying, we weren't going back. And we did. We stayed, we integrated. Mom's family was in a beautiful little town outside of Ottawa called Almont, another really magical place surrounded by a river and waterfalls, like pure magic.
Wow.
And so I lived there for 4 years and had really beautiful friends, those friendships that we make between the ages of 10 to 14, those pre-pubescent friendships. They never leave you. Yeah. So really beautiful children. Some family struggles, mind you, for sure, because the family was separated. And again, I can pass almost anywhere in the world with my complexion. My brothers are dark, and there was only one other dark-skinned family in the small town outside of Ottawa, but still, Ottawa at that time was pretty Anglo as well. So my brothers had an entirely different experience, actually, than I did. And the boys are different than girls. The girls are warm and embracing, and the boys took on a little bit of that pioneering macho, I don't know. Anyway, my brothers were heavily discriminated against, so their experience was very, very different. And but once they stood their ground, it was my 2 brothers against the whole tribe of boys in the town, and they had wars, and my brothers were very inventive with creating, bird bombs with rocks inside, and they gained the boys. Yeah, it was full on war. But they gained their respect, and they, of course, eventually made really, really strong friendships. But that only lasted 4 years, and then the family got back together. My dad got a stellar position in Toronto in his world of work, which is television and communications. He was a VP in Trinidad. He was a VP of the first television station in the Caribbean, actually. So he was managing it. Yeah, very cool. So he was always traveling the world. I come from travelers, truly. And I would always be excited when he was going places, because, I would imagine what he was doing and imagine these places and the stories he would tell and the postcards. So yeah, he was assisting in establishing essentially the third world in the 70s, the beginning and runnings of their first television stations. That's what he was doing in Latin America, in the Caribbean, in Africa. So in Canada, he got the position of one of the VPs for the first multilingual television station in Toronto, in Canada. Yeah,
no way.
Yeah, in the 80s, it was called CFMT, and it was the first multilingual station. So very cool. I think they presented 5 programming in 5 different languages.
Wow.
Yeah.
So cutting edge back then, right?
Yeah. My dad was at the forefront of it, of what what would have been computers in the late 90s, right? It was TV in the 60s, yeah.
Yeah.
And my dad, even though he's 84 now, he is so computer savvy. He's more computer savvy, but his kids are a bit, yeah, dad is, it's funny, dad is the businessman and very left brain rational, and his kids are all nature. My brothers, actually my two brothers moved back to Trinidad. It's rare, right? If you leave, yeah, generally when people leave, you immigrate to a first world, you generally don't go back. But my brothers are the rare guys that like, no, we're going, we don't want to be here.
We want to go back to our roots. Okay, that's cool, and it has merit.
It is. Although they love Canada, they love much about Canada. They're mountaineers, they're outdoor guys, right? So they're whitewater rafters and mountaineers, and they're conservationists. One brother heads up a turtle, the Leatherback Turtle Foundations. That's been his work for the past 15 years in Trinidad, protecting the turtles in the virgin forest. So yeah. I don't know, I lost my train of thought talking about the family.
Talking about your family and where each one took their path of life, and two ended up back at home in Trinidad. So yeah. Okay. Yeah. So that takes us up until, let's see, so did you graduate from high school or secondary school in Toronto?
Not Toronto, but yeah, Newmarket, if you know it, north of Toronto. That's where I attended high school, and yeah, I could talk a little bit about the Anglo Experience. And again, for me,
yes, please.
I blend in. I blend in. I'm not so. I have a tan now, but I can pass for being pretty Anglo. Again, my brothers, we moved from one small town to another. My dad did the commute to waterfront Toronto every day, but we were actually living in a little agricultural town, and we took a bus to get to Newmarket to go to high school. Again, my brothers were the only dark-skinned guys, and it's North York, North York, Toronto. So I don't know if my parents thought that through or not very well. Yeah. I mean, it would have been a lot easier for them if we were in Toronto. So again, my brothers grew up, they had to adapt once again to a lot of
harsh circumstances, what it sounds like, bullying and things like that. They had to be subject to.
Yeah, you betcha.
Which is very prevalent in smaller towns, because I'm a small town girl myself, and so small town, Yeah.
So they
smaller mentality.
No wonder they went back to Trinidad.
Of course.
But it's so funny. Because they're Indian, right? They're not African, but they live in, they chose, because they're real nature guys and outdoor guys. And they own a part of a mountain in outside, 8 acres of what used to be an old plantation back in, in the century ago. And they're bringing it back to life and back to its natural state. And my brother's building his home there, and they have a home in the village as well. It's an African village. It's a small village. It's beautiful, on a huge beach where the leatherback turtles lay their eggs. But it's an African town. So, now they're the white boys, but the locals consider them to be the
white ones now. How interesting.
It's their walk in life, no matter where they go. They're
going to stick out like sore thumbs.
Yeah,
basically wherever they're at.
I mean, they're mature and cool guys now, and they have nice friends there, and they're all good. But just an interesting walk for them. And for one brother, Lar, really, he can identify with the First Nations reality of Canada, because he looks like he's First Nations more than Indian, or because he's so mulatto. So he more so can totally identify with the struggles of the First Nations people in Canada. So it's all just so very interesting.
It's super interesting. Okay, so where do you go after high school? Let's take it, because
Yeah.
Let's fill in the gaps here.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I knew from the time I was a teenager, I couldn't wait to graduate high school. All I wanted to do was travel the world, And I think all of, and it's been a gift in contemplating your questions, Kimberly, even though, I wrote a lot, and we're freewheeling it now. I'm not reading from it, but one thing did come to me, certainly the gift of spending this time with your questions. And that is that really my whole life, well, from the time I became aware as a teenager of what my heart really wanted, I've been wanting to get back to that beauty of my childhood. There I was in a completely culturally, ethnically inclusivity, and all of these, all of those ethnicities brought their cultures intact. So we had the most beautiful Chinese food, and there's Chinese Buddhist temples here and Taoist temples, and there's, the mosque. My grandparents were Muslim, and all of the celebrations that I described, we participated in everything. That was my parents, very culturally oriented people. And then the natural beauty of the place and the exoticness of the place, the bird caves, the bat caves. These bats, it's the only place they live in the entire world. They're called oil birds. They live in the caves of Trinidad, and they're these, deep caves that go on forever. There's fascinating places. And of course, the beaches and mountains. And nature and culture has been my thing forever. And Trinidad is like the microcosm, of all of this.
Sounds like it. Yeah.
And the world, to me, the world has always felt like home. Yeah. The world is home to me. Ultimately, our hearts are home. Take our hearts into the world, and wherever we are is home. Mm-hmm. So yeah, so I've just been a travel wanderlust from the time I was a teenager. And so I ended up raising my kids on the West Coast. And as much as, the gift of children are, and I love being a mom, but for anyone who is a real wanderlust, it's the hardest thing to stay put.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. But you have to do it. You have to do it to a degree when you're a parent and you have children.
Oh yes, that's what we talked about right before we started recording. Was we're both nomadic types.
Yeah.
However, when you have kids, and after we full-time traveled for a while, my kids begged me to stay in one place. And we had to settle down because some kids can love all of this, but what kids really want is stability.
That's right.
And for nomadic types like us, that's a hard one.
It is.
That's a hard one because we would love to just, be full-time traveling all the time, exploring and feeding into that, curiosity, which becomes an addiction, because the only addiction I really have besides coffee is travel.
Travel.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Wonderful. Yeah. Well, when you have that, perception of the world being home, then you feel like, the places that I haven't been, like the Middle East, I would love to go to the Middle East. I've met many amazing people from the Middle East and heard their stories from, young men from Palestine. And I cry listening to their stories when they tell their stories with the most incredible strength of character and being, and to have survived, Palestine, and to not have a hardened heart and not be vengeful, right? These incredible mature souls. But I've got one of each. I have a daughter as well as a son, and my son and I, he at 16 he wanted to move to Japan. Like, yes, wonderful.
Oh, good.
So I set him up with a schooling exchange program, and within a year I was in Japan. But my daughter was only 12 at the time, and she didn't want us to go, and I was co-parenting her. She'd be living with me between my home and her dad's home, 4 nights with me, 3 nights with my dad, with her dad, her father.
Mm-hmm.
So we shifted to her being in a school term in Japan for one term or for summer, and then back to her dad. We did that every 3 months, and it was expensive.
Wow.
It was expensive and heartbreaking to say goodbye to your 12-year-old, right? And for her to say goodbye. So that was the toughest thing ever. One of the toughest, moments in life, saying goodbye for 3 months at a time. But she would never forfeit her experience. We all love Japan so much. Yeah. But she's a home girl and she's in Vancouver. She loves traveling, but we were hoping she would come to Mexico with us at this time. She's got a boy, she has her life there.
Oh, yes. Once they start creating those relationships, forget it. They're going to stay around.
Yeah.
So let's bring you up to where you're at right now. Can I go ahead or am I missing something in the middle that we need to talk about?
Yeah, we were in Japan for a couple of years, and then I went back to Vancouver for her high school years. I was hoping she'd choose Japan, but her father made the choice for her, really.
Right.
So back to Vancouver for 4 years, and as soon as she graduated, my son was living in Korea, and he'd been saying, "Come to Korea, Mom, come to Korea." So yeah, when
like another country on my list, let me think about it. Right?
My daughter went off to university, and I went off to Korea, and then from Korea I went to Indonesia for a couple of years, and then my parents, I needed and wanted to spend more time with them. Dad had cancer, and we thought he might even go in 2018. So I actually moved back in a year. I mean, Indonesia is about as far away as you can be, right, from Toronto.
Yeah. How long would it take to fly there, for example?
Oh my goodness, it's 3 flights, and it takes forever. And if you miss, like it happened to me a couple of times, because there are so many flights from Singapore to Indonesia, and I didn't book that final leg, and it did happen a couple of times that I needed to stay overnight at the airport, and because the flight was sold out or whatnot. Anyway, it can take an extremely long time. So yeah, when we thought Dad might go from cancer, I just wanted to be with both of my parents and support both of them, and Mom really needed the help too. So I spent 2018 with them, which was, such a gift. Dad is still alive and well today, but Mom is gone. So yeah, so that was 2018. For 2019, I went to Crete, hoping they would join me or come and visit. They didn't. Mom was just too tired, and then for the end of 2019 into 2020, I was with my parents again for 6 months. Thank heavens, because when I left for Mexico, Mom, she left herself, massive heart attack in April of 2020. So such a gift, and I'm so pleased I listened to my heart and spent that time, because that time with our loved ones, it's irreplaceable. Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So you were asking how I ended up in Mexico, and it's because Mexico is this beautiful culture, this beautiful country, this beautiful geography, entirely exotic. And I'm only 4 hours from Toronto. It's a 4-hour flight, for goodness sakes. Right?
Yay.
So that's how I ended up here in 2020. My son and I came to Mexico, and we came in March, and Canada was already locking down.
Yeah.
And, I was so happy to have spent 7 months here, and then went back to spend time with my dad. But yeah, that's how I ended up here, because it's a beautiful culture and place, and so incredibly exotic, yet only 4 hours from Toronto. And I'm here now because thank you, Mexico, for being an open country as the world is going through all of this madness. Mexico is saying, yes, our borders are open, come here. We're not free to be in Canada. If you're choosing not to take this inoculation, which my son and I, we don't want our lives to be so heavily controlled and choices made for us by our government. No, thank you. So,
how old is your son now?
33.
Oh, okay, so he's an adult that's decided to join Mom. That's awesome.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
He actually left when we were in Mexico in 2020. Mexico locked down, and my
Yeah.
son's been living in Korea, mostly between Korea and San Francisco for more than a decade now. And so Korea is really, Seoul is his home, really. So he decided, because Seoul at that time wasn't locked down, if you remember, Korea was remaining quite open.
I didn't never know that, I guess. Yeah.
They,
Mhm.
they had an application for distancing from people who were diagnosed with COVID, and they did their best to stay open. They did lock down for a time, but anyway, he chose to go back to Seoul because they were open. And I said, well, you know what? I'm feeling like, no, I don't want to be in Seoul, and I'm feeling really good here. So he did go back with his girlfriend, and I stayed in Mexico for 7 months, and then spent from October to last October in Canada with visiting friends, family, my daughter, my dad, and then decided to come back into the embracing arms of Mexico while Canada is going through its real crazy stuff with this lockdown. Yeah,
Which brings me to, I have another question. Go ahead and say what you're going to say. I don't want to interrupt you, but I have a burning thought here.
You bet. Yeah, just that they went into another massive lockdown for Christmas. People are locked down for Christmas.
Yeah.
You know, thankfully, my dad has my sisters and her family living very close by. You know, if he really needed me, I would have stayed there. But I have two sisters and their family, so he's in good hands. Although, if he had his way, he'd have all 5 of his kids with him. You know, he's never been alone in his life, and he's alone now, and of course not, you know, going through difficulties, big, huge difficulties with my mom leaving. He never anticipated that she would
go first. Yeah, that she would go first. Exactly.
He's a man of managerial preparations, but when it comes to home life,
no. Yeah, mom was always the one holding the fort down. Yeah.
Got it.
That's what we women do. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what has Mexico done for you as a person? What kind of place is it where you live beyond, and why Merida of all places in Mexico?
Well, as you know, in Mexico, since the lockdown, really, on a practical level of physical safety, right? I mean, 132 government officials and reporters have been murdered. A lot of expats have actually left Mexico because of the cartel wars. And we were in Tulum. We first arrived to Tulum, and there are weekly shootings in Tulum. Like,
Tulum
we were there, you know, a young woman she hit the crossfire of the cartel trying to take out another cartel member. It's just madness, right? So, and also there are many things about Tulum that are unsavory on many different levels. I mean, the beaches are paradise, of course, but one doesn't live in a beach resort that costs, you know, $200 a night. So where we were living, the place itself was lovely, but you're looking at the massive squatting area.
Oh,
right? You have the opulent, you have such extremes of opulence and extremes of deprivation. And I mean, I've actually gone through the squatting area, and it's actually, many parts of it are really, really awesome. It's like any real third world village anywhere in the world. And it's cute, and people build their own little homes, and you're there in the forest, and you know, there's little general stores. That part of it is really cute, but the government, the municipal government isn't taking care of garbage. Tulum is disgusting. And there's a landfill in the squatting area, which we were looking at we were on Kukulkan Avenue, and in a new condo, but it's overlooking the squatting area where there's a landfill. Plus there's Kukulkan, there's garbage everywhere. So there was garbage, there were shootings, and my son, he's accustomed to, you know, high-end Gangnam style Seoul lifestyle, right? He doesn't want to, and I don't want to see garbage. I mean, I'm more versatile than my son. I'm aware of the whole of it and can move through the whole of it. But he's like, you know, Gangnam Seoul and Tokyo guy and San Fran guy, and yeah, he doesn't want to be around these elements, and especially the shootings. I don't want him to be cycling through Tulum and getting
Sorry,
shot.
but safety first. That's doesn't matter how beautiful the place is.
Yeah. So we got online and we were looking at, okay, well, where to be, you know, what about Merida? And did you know this fact, Kimberly? Merida is actually the second safest
I did know
country,
this. Yeah.
not just in Mexico, but in all of North America. And the
Yes.
first city is actually Quebec City, which is where my son and I were for 3 months prior to coming here. Quebec City, so beautiful. Quebec City is the safest city in all of North America. Merida is the second safest city.
Merida. Yeah, Merida is a place that is super safe. You're living among the Mayan descendants,
Yeah.
which is ultra interesting in itself. Their Spanish is quite interesting. Nothing I could actually understand. I remember taking taxis there and trying to strike up a conversation with them in Spanish, and all of a sudden I'm like, what in the world are they saying? And then I said, you know, I would talk to other Mexicans, and I said, I'm fully fluent in Spanish, can't understand these people. And then the people from Mexican cities would say, we can't either. And I'm like, well, why is that? And they would say, because you're in the middle of a Spanish sense, and they put Mayan in there.
Right.
Can't compete with that. So
Mayan dialects. Amazing.
they put it in there. So yeah, I was like, wow. Can't compete with that. But another reason, I'm not sure if you know about this, but a lot of the cartel members hide their families in Merida. Are you familiar with that?
I did
You know about this.
It's
Is one of the reasons why they keep it safe, because other cartels do not want to have problems with whoever is hiding there. And they live in very, very luxurious estates outside of the city, like in the country club area, right? And so they're keeping their families safe there, and that is one reason why everything is pretty calm there for the moment. Who knows how long that's going to last, though?
Sure.
I've heard that too.
Is that right? Yeah.
But for now, enjoy it.
All of this corruption, all of this global corruption. Hopefully, no, it's a time of really holding out the vision for what we can have on this, you know, Edenic planet, right? Move beyond all of the governmental, political, corporate corruption. We have this opportunity.
Can you shed some light on what Merida is specifically like?
What's been your
experience?
It's a beautiful city. It's a beautiful city. I'm so happy to be living in Centro. It's a deeply cultural experience. So if you go to the Mercado area, just to the east, there are many small, as you know, many small Mayan communities outside of Merida. Many, I can't wait to go and visit them. But real traditional Mayan communities, and a lot of the people come into Merida to sell their goods at the market. So if you go at rush hour, the streets, it's like India, actually. It's like being in India.
Yes, it is.
You're just fully immersed in the Mayan culture. The sidewalks are jam-packed. The diesel buses could go anytime. You know, please, let's get electric in here, because the pollution can be pretty thick and noisy. These big old diesel buses, I don't know where they come from, Russia or something. That part of it is also like India, but it's truly a deeply cultural experience. So yeah, there's that. But then the evenings in the parks are absolutely beautiful. They'll, you know, the big squares like in all of old Europe, start building the cathedral in the middle of town with a big plaza park, and then the town extends from that. But we've got several parks in a row here, so it's just lovely. Park Avenue, you know. Yeah,
Montejo, for example, that area is just absolutely gorgeous.
It is, yeah.
And I don't know if you're into, like, you know, on Sunday, what happens on Sunday in that area?
Right, yeah, the live cultural performances, which is sponsored by the government, which is so nice. And in any park in Mexico, there used to be, live music and dancing for the people. This is how
There
the people
used to be,
celebrate
yeah.
life. Yeah, I haven't seen so much of that. The ones I'm aware of are their cultural venues that have been paid for by the government, sponsored, which is really beautiful. So that stuff's going on. But yeah.
But they closed that. Remember what I'm getting at is here, they closed the whole avenue on Sunday. And this happens in a lot of major cities in Mexico, just not Merida. And you can just ride your bike or rent bikes. And it's a beautiful Sunday activity. We used to love to do that when we lived in Merida.
Yeah, and even the parks in Centro, the streets become pedestrian only.
Right.
And the evenings are quiet.
So awesome.
It's so beautiful to see people just out enjoying the evening, enjoying the sunset.
Yeah.
And quiet in the park. We were here for Halloween, and the parks, the Mayan celebration of Halloween is very different from the Aztec one in Quebec City or Oaxaca. And there was this beautiful serene energy in the parks, just quiet. Yeah.
And Day of the Dead, there was probably the best celebration we've ever been to. It was really, that's deep culture right there. When you have the Katrinas, Sandra saying the face painting, all of that celebration, the dancing, everything is.
Did you see the candlelit parade?
Yep.
It was canceled. I was so hoping to see that.
Yes, because we went there in 2018 and everything was still full on. And it was unforgettable. And then we had the cochinita pibil, which is the typical, food that they make for Day of the Dead. It takes like 2 days to cook.
Oh, the tamale, right? Yeah, we had those. Hishan Pishal, Hishan Pishal, is that the name? The day.
Like that. Sure. I know what you're talking about. Yes, but they have very typical activities and foods that they eat for Day of the Dead. So it was really a special celebration. It was unforgettable. We had a blast that night. We made some new friends there and we spent it with them, and it was really fun and very interesting. We painted our faces and did all of that too. So that was fun.
So yeah.
So cool. So what is your life like on a daily basis? Like, what does your life look like?
It looks like meditation and yoga asana practice and breathing exercises. Since the lockdown, I like many people in the world, using this time. It's a real time to go inward and to do our inner work and to rebirth something entirely new for ourselves and for the world. I've been a meditation and yoga teacher. I did that in my 30s and 40s. Then I became ill actually in my 30s and thought that I needed to honor my left brain a little bit more. And so I went back to university and got a degree in cultural anthropology again. Culture, meaning, what is real, what is true? Give me truth. Understanding. So yeah, my son and I both have a practice of several hours a day. And breathing is also part of that. And it just, takes us to really beautiful states of being. And then of course we'll go out every day and travel to the pyramids, or on the weekends head to pyramids. We've been to Uxmal and head to Cenote Is, and every day just really enjoying.
Stop right there and let's explain to our listeners what a cenote is, because a lot of people may not know. That's spelled Cenote. Cenote. What is that? What is a cenote?
Cenotes are absolutely magical fresh water pools that are within caves. Often you have to go down into there's a cave opening in the earth, and there are stairs that have been built, and you you walk down the stairs, or sometimes even I've even been to ones that I go down a ladder and then crawl. This one was really, I was there about a month ago. It was a real place of rebirthing, and that's what they're known to be. They are sacred places to the Mayan, and they are places of entering into the mother, into the womb, and they're places of sacred places of rebirthing of self. They're absolutely beautiful. Many of them
they are.
will have caverns with skylights and the sun pouring into the cave. The water is the most beautiful color of emerald green, crystal clear, beautiful fresh water. These cenote pools stem from underwater rivers. The entire Yucatan has kilometers and kilometers of fresh flowing, huge underwater rivers, where if you're a scuba diver, you can actually access these underwater lakes, tunnels, caverns, rivers. That's not me.
That's not you.
But I'm in such admiration of these people so from the cenote, these divers, they'll go into the cenote, and cenotes can be 30 feet deep to
200 meters deep, as the ocean.
Incredible. And
or deeper even, they've said. Yeah.
Who even knows? The divers would know more. But they go down to the bottom of these cenotes where there are tunnels, and and the tunnels can be quite narrow. So yeah, you're going through the umbilical cord, or the vagina, as it were, and then it will open up into another womb, into an underground, cavern, and these things can be tremendous. They can be enormous.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, they'll continue into another tunnel. They're just, these people are incredible, right? That can go into doing these things. Tunnels within wombs, within tunnels.
Super fascinating. And it's estimated that in the state of Yucatan state, there are as many as 8,000 of them. So that a lot of places, like even Costco that's in Merida, I don't know if you knew this, they were building the parking lot there, and then they discovered that there was a cenote there.
Everywhere.
Okay, so then they had to block that off because they just didn't know. They're just always popping up in different parts of that area.
Wouldn't it be great if they opened it up? It's like, go shopping and then hit a cenote to refresh yourself. And the water is cool. We have to tell everyone that the water, it's
super cool.
Quite cool. It can be quite chilly to I don't know what temperatures, like in the 50s and high 50s down to even lower 50s.
Yeah.
Some of the deeper ones. And the quality of the water is so beautiful. It's some of the most beautiful water, that I've been in.
It's crystal clear. Yeah.
Absolutely pristine, crystal clear. Yeah. Just
beautiful.
And there's stalactites, right? Stalactites hanging everywhere. Truly magical places. Yeah.
And each one is unique in its own right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. And wherever you see a very ancient tree growing in the Yucatan, you can be certain that its roots are tapped into a cenote.
Oh yeah, for sure. Oh, so beautiful. It's just making me want to go there again. Yeah, it's really a unique place. In fact, one of my dear friends who's from Idaho back in the States, when we had just moved into our house in Merida, we'd only been there for like 2 weeks. She came to visit us. Nice. And it was a trip that for her changed her entire life. And I'll tell you why. Of course, we went and visited the cenotes. We went to the Mayan Museum, visited around. But the last 5 days of the trip, I got them an Airbnb in Sisal, which is a smaller beach in that general area.
Oh yes.
And they were able to rent this house that had its own private beach, and the beach is completely full of shells. And from that moment on, this going to Merida and going to Sisal has become a part of their lifestyle. They go there every January. And it's become part of their lives. And that's how much that trip impacted them.
Yeah, lovely. The breeze here, of all the places I've been in the world, the Yucatan Caribbean breeze is exquisite.
It
It is
is.
just, for me anyway. I mean, you might find it too warm. We're all a bit different, of course. But for me, the breeze is always the perfect temperature, and it's just has such a sentience. It has such a presence, character, personality, a soul, and it's just wraps around you like.
There is a certain energy that you can actually feel there. You can feel it. Yes. And it's like an ancient energy that you can feel.
Pyramid culture, and to me, my sense of this entire place, the geography of it, the cenotes, this was the playland for a very civilized culture, right?
Yes.
The pyramid culture. What do we even truly know about the pyramid culture, which was a global civilization? There are pyramids all over this planet. We know so little about them, and
so little.
who these beings were, who these people were. But this was certainly their playland of gods and goddesses who.
And they're everywhere in that area. Where you're right in the center, where you can just take off and go to different ruins, different pyramids. And here's the interesting part about it. I remember when we went on a trip to Cozumel. The vegetation, if you haven't seen it, nothing like the Mexican jungle there in that certain. It is so thick, and they're always. They told us when we went to Cozumel that they're always discovering new sites because the vegetation is so thick there that it overgrows all of those pyramids, all of those structures, and they're the ruins. And they're always, I from time to time, I'll get a text on my Mexican phone that says, oh, we just discovered a new archaeological site. And then they're clearing it so that people can just, setting it up for potential tourism or whatever, so people can see it. But it's pretty amazing there. And until you've seen it, you just can't even believe it. I come from a desert, so for me to see that much vegetation, for me, it's just, it's awe. It's awe-inspiring for me,
Forests, sweet forests.
Yes, with all kinds of vegetation. There's jaguars, there's all kinds of exotic animals, monkeys, everything.
There's a conservation area near Celestune. Well, Celestune's actually in the middle of the conservation area. And we were just there over Christmas holidays. Flamingos, we saw hundreds of flamingos. They're amazingly tall. Their legs are incredulous.
Beautiful.
Incredible. Yeah. And pelicans in trees. They're in the trees. I didn't know pelicans roosted in the trees. And they're beautiful pelicans with white necks and yellow heads. And there they are sitting in the treetops, hundreds of them. Just amazing. Yeah, it's so beautiful to see nature, thriving. We have to imagine it thriving as well.
Yeah. And that's what you love. You love all that. Yeah, that's awesome. You and your family. Is there anything I haven't really asked you about that we really haven't covered that you'd like to add to this?
Sure. Yeah, we haven't really talked about the work that I do. When the lockdown occurred, I was just completely inspired to write a course of the knowledge which I have been, it was my intention back in my 20s to introduce spirituality back to modern culture, and along with spirituality is also a tremendous aspect of coming to know ourselves as spiritual beings, is doing the emotional healing work too. In modern culture, we really weren't raised with an emotional education. It just wasn't the primary focus. My parents were born during World War II, and it was just survival. How do we survive, on many levels. And then on economic levels, it was transferred into, be the holy grail of modern civilization is capitalism. And just, we've left out our spiritual holistic selves, and along with that, we've left out our emotional well-being as well. So in my 20s, it was my intention, and I've been doing this work since my 20s, coming back into our holistic natures, which includes acknowledging our emotional well-being, and of course our spiritual nature. And within, even though quantum physics, has been around for more than 100 years, and we have the evidence in our material world with all of the new technology is based on quantum mechanics, but the ideas, the ideas of quantum physics haven't trickled down into our everyday worldview. And these ideas, it's beautiful because they are broaching the ancient ideas that indigenous culture everywhere on this planet have a body of knowledge of these ideas of life being, all of life being sentient. So in quantum physics, everything is energy, everything is consciousness. Well, the old cultures have been telling us that forever, but of course, colonialization has been quashing and destroying. We know here in Mexico, maybe six codexes survived. They destroy everything. I mean, Rome went into Egypt and destroyed the libraries of Alexandria. It's what the colonizers, the conquering, empire-building cultures do. Well, all of this knowledge has been lost to humanity, and we have this opportunity now where we are really rewriting what we want our societies to be, what we want our cultures to be, what we want our lives to be. So now more than ever, we're more open. People are more open to, especially with the media of this lockdown. The media has been, just been such a, my father's a media man. I'll use him as an example. He's a, television news guy, a guy that I worked with my dad when I was 17 for a summer at the television station in the library. And just the commute to work, I'd heard world news, from every different channel that he could, radio channel. My head was spinning, from, but that my dad could do that. But even my dad turned off the media, right? When we were 4 months into the lockdown, even for him, it was like, what the hell is going on?
Too toxic. Yeah.
So toxic, so manipulative, so much fear mongering. So so many people looking at like really what is going on and what is real and what is true. And we're not going to find that through the main media sources.
No.
That's for sure. Everyone's become that's become utterly apparent. So it's finding, sifting through and finding a semblance of knowledge. So within this course, what I've written is, the knowledge is based upon world cultural knowledge, and the knowledge, they're universal principles that are found in all world cultures. It's a beautiful body of knowledge. And it's also being qualified by quantum physics of today, which is also knowledge that it doesn't make it down into universities, it doesn't make it down to the people. So really, we're all living with, if we're living a conventional worldview, we're very much living from a worldview that's just based upon real partial truths. So how do we get truth? Now, how do we get truth and this beautiful body of knowledge out to people when the overlording systems don't even want it? They purposely try to keep it out. Even my anthropological teachers at the time, they're aware of this. Anthropology knows this. Social anthropology knows this. And so they would be giving, my teachers would be giving us truth about the system, but the system itself doesn't change. They are one person within the system trying to give truth, but the educational university academics, they don't rewrite the system. So incredible. So we're in this incredible time of opportunity to rewrite from greater and missing truths, and to also do the emotional educational work within ourselves to transform habitual patterns and limitations. We know what the feelings are that we don't want to be feeling. How do we not feel them? How do we get above them? So if I come back to my course, it's the knowledge on one hand, and then the actual practice. And the practice is coming through beautiful, simple, potent breathing exercises that changes our brainwave, that changes our it's so simple. Breathing exercises are so paramount. They're so simple, Kimberly, and they're the most simple thing you can do to actually change from a beta brainwave pattern into an alpha, into theta, which is what you go to within a meditative state. It'll take you right there in 15 minutes, not even 15, but 15 is really potent. You can absolutely change your state of being into that meditative presence of being that just feels great. And when you do slip into alpha and theta, even delta brainwaves, what happens then is, I mean, it's lovely. Again, the spiritual traditions have known this forever, but I'm also today coming from new brain science studies and certifications as well. So I'm pulling all the, now we have all of the science to qualify again, like quantum physics is qualifying the knowledge of the ancients. New brain science is qualifying the actual practices of breath work and meditation. So once we slip in to a more calm, more relaxed, more state of being mindset, then the hypothalamus immediately goes to work in stimulating the pineal gland to create a host of chemicals. We're essentially chemical making machines. Chemicals, to heal. Chemicals that heal the body, healing chemicals.
I'll be talking to you more about this because my brain is going like, it's coming up with some new ideas here.
Yeah. So I created a course. It can be done completely online. I will be also offering within the course Zoom calls for question answering and guided meditation. But
Nice.
Knowledge, like here's the new world. Here is knowledge that the world's people have held that hasn't made it to us in modern society, right? Here's the knowledge, and it's qualified by quantum physics, and then here are the practices and guided meditations. I have 18 videos of guided meditations for the breathing exercises and for the meditations. The meditations are the most potent meditations to transform limiting beliefs, that are held in the subconscious mind. That's where, by the time we are 7 years old, we are 90. Now, the scientists are saying between 95 and 97% programmed, unless we are consciously aware of, oh my gosh, I just sounded like my mom right now. And that's a part of, I love and adore mom, but not this part, not this is where mom was limited, right? Or this was a pain. I can change that. Yeah.
Right,
so we're more like computer drives. It's kind of scary actually, right? Than we ever could have imagined.
Because of our programming and our indoctrination that we've received. Yeah. I have too much to say about this. We're gonna have to talk privately. Yes, definitely.
So my course is available. It's ready to roll. I can share the my website with you.
Yes, please.
Will do. cer-newlife.com, but we can put it up wherever you're putting me up. We can put it up there.
We'd love to promote your course.
I haven't launched yet. This week I'm hoping. I'm doing everything myself, so the technological aspect of it has really challenged me.
Yes.
Pixels and linking and all of this stuff, automations, and it's a huge learning curve. But many millions of us are going through this as we transition to offerings online. Yeah. Well,
what you're just saying is I have a friend of mine, and I have to sneeze right now, of course.
Oh, you go.
Oh my goodness. I may or not. It's worse when you try to hold it in. I'm not going to have this big sneeze on camera. Anyway, a colleague of mine here in Mexico, we're actually designing a course right now. So we may want to have a component of yours in our course. This is what I'm thinking. We're currently looking for somebody to help us with some meditation work.
Lovely.
Yeah, that's one of the, what do you call it, serendipitous things that may happen. It's just people and things appear in your life just as you need them. So just saying, you may be adding, if you choose to add some value to our course that we're currently designing on how to be a successful expat. Yeah.
Hey, lovely, perfect.
Yeah. So that's in the works right now too.
Yeah,
So
we are redefining success, right?
yes, exactly.
Holistic success.
And it's
All
so
out.
important to get back to that spirituality. We've really, those of us who were raised in North America haven't been largely exposed to these types of practices. And, you know, you being from partly from India, well, Indian descent, that's the heart of where everything's come from. Yeah.
Yeah. One of them.
Need to get back to those, the original and traditional practices of healing naturally and holistically. Yes. So yeah, we're gonna have a continued conversation off camera.
I mean,
Yes.
every culture had, you know, the indigenous cultures, they had oral history, so they didn't have written libraries full of knowledge. It was passed on orally, and if you destroy the culture and destroy the people through genocide and acculturation, the stories become lost, right?
That's right.
On my end, they had their codexes, incredibly enough. But I wanted to tell you, I received a healing from a Mayan healer. It was amazing. It was amazing. So this tradition, it's still surviving here. Absolutely. It was an energy healing using stones, and he also he was reading me. You know, he read very specific things that would be applicable just to me, right?
Wow.
Let me know that, okay, he gives general information just to teach generally about what he's doing, but then he also pinpointed very specific things that was super powerful. So every culture, you know, every culture had their body of knowledge and body of wisdom.
Yeah.
And
It's so interesting to share these things, you know, but you have to also be open, you know, in the 3 countries that I've lived in, which has been the US, Argentina, and now Mexico. I remember in Argentina just, you know, being exposed to some of these things that you're talking about, maybe curandero or whatever. These are people who are not doctors, but they heal. They're healers. Yeah. And they have their own clientele and everything. And it's very, very strange for me as an American to walk into a place like that. Yes. I felt completely out of my element. What am I doing here? And where are you taking me? But it worked. I mean, you know, they were able to heal me and sometimes my sons with digestive issues and just whatever was going on. That I was like, where in the world did you get this information? But it's out there, you know, and it comes from the culture. So
yeah, traditional healing.
Super interesting.
Yeah.
So anything else that you'd like to include before we conclude? Include before we include. That sounds really prophetic.
Maybe I wanted to, finish off with a sort of wish, you know, intention. Maybe I'll read this.
Please.
With you. During these challenging times, it's so important to dream your own dream and not get lost in the information overload coming at us. If you need some help dreaming a good dream, take it from a dreamer who has lived many of hers, who has always pursued her own heart's calling, as denying my truth, I found, quickly leads to unwellness. That is another story I touched on from my 30s. So the call can't, you know, it can't be ignored. New personal dreams are still in the making. I was born with a dream for this world, and my life's work and play has been manifesting this dream. Yet sometimes dreams are closer than we think, like the dream of being a mom and really giving the time to love and enjoy my children, or the dream of spending time with and caring for my elderly mom before she passed away, or spending a year with my dad when we thought he may go from cancer. So yeah, sometimes our dreams, you know, they can be right beside us. And then I've been sharing this course with you, and for these times in particular, to assist with the return to a holistic culture. It starts with the return to holism within ourselves. So in this online course, I give a synthesis of worldview knowledge common to global culture knowledge which has been left out of our modern social upbringing and education, as well as providing the much needed emotional education to get you shifting out of habitual emotional limitations and into higher resonance, into the beauty of being. The course is an integration and alignment with new worldview principles which serve your well-being and create harmony in your life.
So beautiful. So beautiful. I was about to get teary-eyed here as you were reading. I also I like to consider myself a spiritual person, but I would like to explore more of that aspect with you, possibly. Yeah. So how can people contact you if you'd like to be contacted?
Well, wherever you're posting this, if you can put up the website.
I'll put up the link. Yep.
Put up the link to that. My email. I'll share my email with you as well, where they may contact me. Yeah, there's lots of information on the website. It's all there actually, and then absolutely please be in touch via email. I can probably share a phone number as well, and then
let's not do that one. let's keep an element of you don't want to be bombarded with with phone calls.
I do have a Facebook page as well, a Facebook page for community, so I can also share that Facebook page. You betcha.
Okay, perfect. Hold that thought for just a second. For those of you who are watching, thank you for watching. We would love to have you. We'd love to hear your feedback, your comments, and anything else you'd like to say. And at the end, don't forget to subscribe, as we feature a lot of interesting perspectives in these podcast interviews in both English and Spanish. Susan, Naja, thank you for coming on today. This has been a most enlightening talk, and I've really enjoyed it. And hopefully our watchers will also. And I want to say one last thing, namaste.
Namaste. Thank you so much, Kimberly. It's been a delight.
Thank you. We'll be very much in touch.
All right.
Okay, bye-bye.